They never heard me. Today, was a reality.
On a worldwide basis, the leaders of Islam are really coming together and connecting throughout the year on issues that the GBC themselves have felt are the most important, crucial issues for the present and future of worldwide society.
When I met Prabhupada in Calcutta, first thing Prabhupada said when I got there was, "I'd like you to drive for me."
Kirtanananda was a convicted criminal. The US federal court charged him with conspiracy to murder 2 devotees. And the CPO found him guilty of child sexual abuse. It was charged that Kirtanananda ordered the murder of these devotees because they had threatened to expose his child abuse activities. In these photos, Radhanath Swami and Gopal Krishna Maharaj are paying their respects to the grave of Kirtanananda. This is offensive to his victims, but it's also a statement about the value they place on child protection. In the 80s, Sri Galim was the principal of the Gurukul in New Vrindavan. At one point, the members of the community became aware that he had sexually abused several children in the school and asked them to leave. It is claimed that Radhanath Swami opposed the decision to ban this man from the community. The following is a statement sent to me by New Vrindavan Gurukuli.
Bhimakarma is correct. Sri Galim and Radhanath Swami have been friends since the early 70s. Radhanath Swami did oppose excommunicating Sri Galim. At the time, he stated it was because of the devastation it was causing his then wife and children. Radhanath Swami is much better at being an inspirational speaker than he is a manager leader.
With Sri Galim, he was the headmaster in the Gurukul in New Vrindavan, and he was he sexually abused on a number of occasions the children in the school. And I was told that when the community wanted to ask them to leave, you opposed that. Is that true?
No, I don't believe that is true. I don't know where the information came from. My concern was Sri Galim had 2 little kids, and they were beautiful little children, and I remember I was very concerned what's going to happen to them.
Yeah.
Because of the sin of the father, we also have to consider the effects on the children. I don't remember being opposed, but I remember having concern for the children, so I may have had some discussions with people.
Radhanath Maharaj regarded the distress the wife and children of Sri Galim would have experienced if relocated to be greater than the threat posed by allowing a known sexual offender to remain in the New Vrindavan community.
The version of punishment was the time I stepped in is the North American GBC ruled that he was never allowed to lead a kirtan, give a class, or have a position for the rest of his life. And I just didn't think that was right. And, I felt it was my moral duty to our society to at least speak what I feel.
Radhanath Maharaj regarded the sanctions against Varkeshwara Pandit to be disproportionate and unjust, and he felt a moral obligation to speak up. But somehow, he did not feel compelled to protect the victims of Sri Galim. it would appear that at least in some instances, he feels that it is desirable or at least acceptable that child abusers have positions of relevance in the movement. And of course, this begs the question, what sort of society is that going to make? If we also consider the evidence indicating that he actually went out of his way to oppose the banning of Sri Galim, we then have a rather disturbing picture. A person who is truly concerned with morality would first and foremost proactively defend the children and not just the perpetrators.
I wanted to accept reinitiation from Radhanath Swami, and I asked him to accept me in the year 2000. He was very gracious to me, I remember, and I felt completely won over by him. I considered him my everything at that time. He was my spiritual master. He was someone who'd offered me really a great amount of kindness. One day someone sent me a link to watch a video, and it was Bhavananda sitting on the Vyasasan in Chowpatty, giving a class to hundreds of people. And seeing him for the first time since I was a child on that video screen sent such a knife through me that I literally fell to the ground and just started screaming, crying. It was so violent of a reaction. After that, I composed a letter to Radhanath Swami and asked him to please never allow that person to address his congregation because they wouldn't be safe. They would trust him because Radhanath Swami said he's trustworthy, that he gave him the position to sit on the Vyasasan. So when I finally came out and I told him that I wanted to write a book about what had happened, what's been going on in our movement, to my surprise, he the first thing that he said was, "But you don't have any proof." And I was really taken aback, like, what did he just say? He said, "Did our Bhavananda Ji," called him Bhavananda Ji, "abuse you?" And he patted me on the head and said he loved me, but that if I were to come out with a book, that I would likely be criticized, ostracized, and that would be very painful for me and my husband and my children.
In my own heart, I feel so much indebtedness and so much sincere love and affection for the Guru generation that it's always my priority. If I could help, to more recently Guru generation.
Unhealthy behavior is a manifestation of an unhealthy mind, and an unhealthy mind is a product of an unhealthy environment. The effective and intelligent way to understand and deal with an unhealthy action is to examine the environment. The act is a mere symptom.
So, is there something about the specific environment in the Hare Krishna society that may have contributed to the extensive child abuse that has taken place?
This is not the forum for that. This is like if you bring up about lunch and you don't like the menu and how they cook the spices. This is the wrong venue.
That's fair. There's not a forum, but why pick Bhagavatam class in front of the deities?
Even Bhaktivedanta Purna Maharaj acknowledges that in ISKCON today, there is not a forum where these issues can be addressed in a healthy and constructive manner. And this is precisely what enables people like him to be teaching to children today.
So it wasn't a thankless task. It was, dealing with what we were dealing with in the office, not just like the allegations and the perpetrators and the alleged perpetrators, and hearing from the children and youth what they went through. Obviously, there's something very distasteful and bitter about it, and perhaps the most disturbing part was a lot of, amongst many in ISKCON leadership, the corruption around these areas. And I don't want to paint with a broad brush. There was was, and I'm sure still is, many in positions of ISKCON leadership who showed sincerity, not just in their words, in their actions, who gave a lot of money for child protection to be done properly. That was there. And there was also a very dark side. Like in my annual report for the Child Protection Office of 2004, I have a section entitled Culture of Accountability, which really it's about a lack of a culture of accountability. And in saying that there are not even minimally effective, it's just a sham, the idea of systems of accountability. Some in ISKCON leadership, to a large extent, they wanted to be able to say they had an International Child Protection Office, but they didn't want the office to actually do its service and do it powerfully.
Unfortunately, I was beginning to lose hope. I was beginning to lose hope in the system of child protection of ISKCON. I was talking to the biggest and all the right people in power and in position to bring about a change for the better. But unfortunately, I was getting no response and no result from anybody. Assure me that the children are going to be safe for future. And so then Burijan Prabhu told me that don't go out, because if you go out, you will be a very hated person by the community members. So he advised me that why don't you write a mail to Braj Bihari Prabhu and tell him that I have asked you to write to Braj Bihari. All that I wanted was somebody help these children of Gurukul. And I needed to take association of some elders, some leaders who would guide me how I could bring some sanity into the school, which was, where the children were really suffering.
Both Gopal Krishna Maharaj and Burijan Prabhu requested Anita to keep the problems in-house. Given ISKCON's track record on child protection, it is irresponsible to discourage concerned individuals from seeking outside help. Braj Bihari Prabhu told Anita that she had different options. She could contact the CPO, the MED, the GBC, etc. Braj Bihari has been closely involved with the Vrindavan Gurukul for more than 20 years. He is very familiar with the problem. He knew that these options he suggested would not help her. I wrote to him expressing my frustrations. He acknowledged that the CPO is a facade, this is the word he used, but claimed that in his role as ombudsman he was obliged to inform Anita of the options available without sharing his opinions. I pointed out that by failing to inform Anita that ISKCON authorities would not deal with the problem responsibly, he had effectively discouraged her from seeking alternative solutions, thus enabling more abuse.
Following recent problems in the Vrindavan Gurukul, Braj Bihari Prabhu has made considerable efforts to direct the support and involvement of the top management of ISKCON to address this pressing issue.
I have witnessed generations of Hare Krishna children suffer from the same mistakes made many times over. The CPO, in its current state, serves primarily as a damage control operation for the institution. It's a PR machine. The protection of children is secondary. In other words, the CPO is doing a much better job at maintaining an appearance of effective child protection than it is at actually protecting children. How is it possible that a society like ISKCON, that in a few short years has established a remarkable international presence, has been unable to take care of its own children?
The UK government describes duty of care as follows.
The duty which rests upon an individual or organization to ensure that all reasonable steps are taken to ensure the safety of a child or young person involved in any activity or interaction for which that individual or organization is responsible. Any person in charge of or working with children and young people in any capacity is considered both legally and morally to owe them a duty of care.
Naturally, the responsibility for a child lies first and foremost with the parents. It is not enough to blindly trust that a system of education will deliver what is promised. At the same time, if ISKCON leaders want to have schools, they're also personally responsible.
Parents, just be personally responsible for your children's education. Doesn't mean you all homeschool or just send them to the to the public schools in your area. If you're sending them to Iskon school, know the history. I just gave some examples in this interview, where even in the most egregious place of abuse, Mayapur, the history again and again is covered up.